It was a morning that felt ordinary at first, yet something in the city air whispered otherwise. The fog hung low, wrapping the streets in a muted gray, and faint sounds of distant buses echoed between the buildings. Everything seemed calm, routine, but inside Layla, an unusual restlessness was stirring. She stood by the kitchen table, holding her cup of tea with both hands, staring at the muted light outside the window. At 38, she had lived many years of her life, but today her heart felt heavy with unease. It was as if something hidden was about to surface, and she sensed it deep in her bones. The phone rang. An unknown number. Her heartbeat jumped, hands trembling, breath catching. Every inhale carried both fear and curiosity, intertwined. Layla answered, and a serious, almost whispering voice spoke. "Layla, go to the bus stop. What you see there will change your world." Her heart froze. For a moment, the world outside seemed blurred, as if she were looking through a fogged window. "Who? How is this possible?" she whispered to herself, but there was no answer. Even after she hung up, her mind was a storm. 7 years of time, so many secrets, hidden truths, all about to collide in one moment. Layla set down her cup and whispered to herself, "I have to see it. I have to face the truth, no matter how painful." She couldn't sleep that night. Questions swirled endlessly in her mind. Did Ethan really get married again? How could he hide this from me for 7 years? And what about Hannah's future? Morning arrived. Silence filled the apartment. Hannah played quietly, but Layla's mind was consumed by one thought. What she would witness at the bus stop could change everything. She prepared her daughter for school. Hannah's little chatter, her laughter, usually comforting, now felt like a cruel reminder. Every tiny joy seemed overshadowed by the looming revelation. Layla quickly slipped into her coat, slung her handbag over her shoulder, and stepped outside. The cold air enveloped her, sharp and biting yet invigorating. Every breath carried a mix of adrenaline and fear. She began walking toward the bus stop, heart pounding, every step a march toward the unknown. The city streets were draped in foggy light. Everything appeared normal to a passerby. Yet to Layla, the world seemed filtered through a hazy veil. People moved past her. Buses rumbled along the asphalt. But to her it all felt surreal, like a stage set for a truth she wasn't sure she could face. Questions raced through her mind. Had Ethan really remarried? How could he sustain 7 years of lies? And what about Hannah's future and her own rights? Layla whispered to herself, "I need to see it. I need to confront the truth, no matter how much it hurts." Her heartbeat accelerated, hands trembling, breath shallow. Each step required a conscious effort to stay calm. The storm in her mind churned, yet she walked forward, driven by a mixture of fear, anger, and an unyielding determination. As she neared the bus stop, her steps faltered. People waited, some quietly scrolling through phones, others gazing down the street. But her eyes locked on one particular sight. A woman and a small girl stood nearby. The girl's eyes, the delicate locket around her neck, they mirrored Ethan's Hannah. Her chest tightened, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. Layla drew a deep, steadying breath. She knew this moment would change everything. 7 years of deception, 2 lives intertwined by lies, all converging in this instant. Inside her, fear, anger, and an unfamiliar strength swirled together. She realized that now was the time to make a choice, to reclaim her life from the shadows of deceit. Now I will see. The truth will finally be clear. And whatever happens, my life will move forward on my terms. Layla stepped onto the bus platform, eyes fixed on the horizon, summoning courage she didn't know she had. Every heartbeat, every breath, was a preparation for the most important revelation of her life. Time seemed to slow at the bus stop. Every bus that rumbled past, every footstep, added another layer of tension to her chest. Every moment heightened the suspense, building a pressure she could almost feel physically. Layla felt the weight of this day pressing down on her. It was not just another morning. It was the morning her life would change. She gazed toward the distant streets, whispering to herself, "This moment is mine. No more lies, no more deception can control my world." Layla stepped onto the bus stop and began waiting for the bus. Every passing second made her heartbeat grow heavier. Slowly, the bus came to a halt, releasing a cloud of smoke, and it felt as if her heart stopped with it. She got on the bus and sat on a back seat near the window, where she could clearly see everything. The bus began to move slowly. Layla looked outside. Every building, every person seemed wrapped in a haze, but her focus was fixed on only one thing: the woman and the little girl standing near the bus stop. The little girl's eyes, that locket around her neck. Everything reminded Layla of Ethan's Hannah. Her breath caught in her throat. Her heart raced, her hands trembled. The bus turned into a residential neighborhood. Layla held herself together, as if standing before a dangerous secret. The woman and the child got off the bus, and Layla followed them quietly, carefully, making sure she wouldn't be noticed. The woman looked well-dressed, professional, walking confidently, with the little girl beside her. They walked toward a house with a clean white fence. And then, Layla's heartbeat stopped. Ethan was standing there. He hugged them both, lifted the little girl in his arms, laughing with her. Layla's heart shattered. 7 years of memories, sacrifices, hidden struggles. Everything turned to dust in that moment. A strange emptiness filled Layla from within. Anger, pain, and betrayal blended into one unbearable feeling. She understood then. Ethan had married another woman and had been hiding this second life for years. Standing at the edge of the street, Layla made a decision. She could no longer remain silent. This betrayal, this lie, had played with her life long enough. Now it was time to stand up for her dignity and for Hannah's future. Layla took out her phone and started recording. Every moment, every scene. She decided these would become evidence in court. Ethan would face consequences, and the injustice done to her would be answered. She took a deep breath. Now I will decide for myself. This lie, this betrayal will never control my life again. The woman and the child went inside the house. Layla stopped the recording and slowly walked back toward the bus stop. Her heart heavy, but her resolve stronger than ever. She now knew that from this day forward, her life would be guided by truth, justice, and her rightful claim. When Layla returned home that day, her body was exhausted, but her mind was wide awake. She knew one thing clearly now. If she stayed silent, that silence would swallow her daughter Hannah's entire future. She placed her bag on the table, took off her shoes, and went straight into the bedroom, locking the door behind her. She took out her phone and watched the video again. Ethan, the other woman, that child, that house. Everything was crystal clear. This was not just betrayal. This was a crime. In the United States, marrying another woman without legally divorcing the first wife, especially when a child is involved, is not only immoral, it is a serious legal violation. That very night, Layla made her decision. The next morning, she was sitting inside a family law office. Across from her sat attorney Jonathan Blake, a man in his early 50s, experience in his eyes and confidence in his voice. Layla told him everything. The marriage, the sacrifices, Hannah, and then the bus stop, the scene, the truth. Jonathan watched the video, flipped through the documents, then looked up and said calmly, "Layla, you have a very strong case. This is bigamy, fraud, emotional abuse, and most importantly, a child rights violation." For the first time, Layla's eyes did not hold tears. They held strength. A few days later, Ethan received a court summons. When Ethan stood in front of Layla, the same old arrogance was still on his face, but fear was hiding behind his eyes. "Layla, you're misunderstanding everything." He tried to speak, but Layla cut him off. "I've seen everything, Ethan. Now the court will decide. Not me." The day of the hearing arrived. The courtroom was silent. Judge Margaret Collins sat firmly in her chair, strict, fair, and bound by the law. Layla's lawyer presented the evidence one by one. Videos, bank records, second marriage documents, school forms of the children. Ethan's lawyer was visibly losing ground. Finally, Judge Collins delivered her verdict. "Ethan Richardson, you married another woman without legally divorcing your first wife. You concealed your child's rights. This court finds you guilty." The court ordered a full custody of Hannah granted to Layla. Ethan to pay child support and alimony. The second marriage declared legally void. A financial penalty imposed on Ethan. Tears flowed from Layla's eyes, but these were not tears of weakness. They were tears of justice. Outside the courthouse, Hannah held Layla's hand and asked softly, "Mom, are we going to be okay now?" Layla bent down, hugged her tightly, and said, "Yes, my love. We are free now." At a distance, Ethan stood alone, silent, defeated, and broken. Layla did not look back. Some stories are not meant to be looked back at. This was not the end. It was a new beginning. A few weeks had passed since the court's decision, but the change in Layla's life felt like years. The house was the same, the rooms were the same, but the atmosphere had changed. Fear was gone. Silence was gone. What remained was peace. Layla woke up early every morning, helped Hannah get ready for school, and looked at herself in the mirror, repeating one sentence in her heart. I am not weak anymore. Ethan was no longer part of her life, only a name on Hannah's documents, and even that from a distance. As ordered by the court, child support arrived every month, but for Layla, the real wealth was the dignity she had regained. One day, Hannah came home from school and said, "Mom, my teacher says you're very brave." Layla smiled, her eyes filling with emotion. "No, my love. I'm just a mother who wanted to keep her child safe." Within a few months, Layla did something she had been postponing for years. She used her old degree again and started a small job. Slowly, she began standing on her own feet. On the other side, Ethan's life had fallen apart. The second marriage was over. His job was at risk, and his reputation in society was ruined. The man who once thought he was clever had become a prisoner of his own choices. One day, Ethan sent Layla a message. "I've lost everything. If you can, please forgive me." Layla read the message, locked her phone and looked out the window. She understood one thing clearly: forgiveness is not weakness, but going back is foolishness. She didn't reply. For the first time, she took Hannah to see the ocean. In the sound of the waves, Layla heard the heartbeat of her new life. Hannah asked softly, "Mom, will we always stay together?" Layla held her close and said, "Yes, my love. As long as I breathe." That day, Layla didn't bury the past. She learned how to move forward from it. Some women cry in stories. Some break in silence. And some stand with their truth and write a new history. Layla was one of them. Sometimes life doesn't test us to break us. It tests us to make us stronger. Those who stand with the truth are the ones who win in the end. If something like this has ever happened in your life, betrayal, injustice, or a moment when you were left alone, share your story in the comments. Backhand index pointing down. Your experience might become someone else's strength, because staying silent is not weakness, but standing up for your rights is real power.